Good morning, Brownsville. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on you're watching this feed. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Frank Olivo. Our program focuses on the very important issues that are affecting our local community. We have shed light on injustices, and we have allowed for our platform, this microphone, to be that of the voice of the people. Now, this is something you can see yourself supporting. Well, we ask that you join the cause. Make sure that you're actively following and are subscribing to our social media platforms. Currently, right now, this program is being streamed exclusively live on X, formerly known as Twitter, and on YouTube. You see, there may come a time where you may be looking for our page with close to 47,000 subscribers on Facebook, and it might go dark. But rest assured, you could always find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, and here on YouTube under our channel, Frankie Legal TV. You see, as of late, our Facebook page is at risk of being taken down. The powers that be do not want you, the people, to know the truth. But remember, fam, we will never ever be silenced. So if you're really about the cause and you want to stand up to corruption and you want to hold our elected leaders and those in leadership positions accountable, you know what to do. Make sure that you're actively following us across all of our social media platforms. Remember, Good Morning Brownsville will come on, rain or shine, Monday through Friday religiously. So make sure that you're actively following and you're subscribing. It's free to our YouTube channel titled Frank Legal TV to tune in. We will never ever be silenced. And always remember, South Texas, we are forever grateful to each and every one of you for the time and attention that y'all provide us. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for that. How we doing, chat? Happy Friday. I hope each and every one of you are having a great start to your day. I hope today is better than yesterday. Let's get right into it. Yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic Party had their primary runoff candidate forum for the Cameron County judge position. And this event essentially was everything that we expected it to. It was a packed house. We saw how community members wanted to see and hear from the candidates themselves and wanted to see them side by side. I think it's very important for candidates to have that accessibility, that have that idea that the constituents is always, within a reach length of our politicians. Why? Because, well, we expect them to ultimately, once they are entrusted with our vote and are elected into these positions, well, that they do what's in the betterment of us as a whole. It was good to have a forum. The last one held for this position or for this race a few weeks ago was only attended by the incumbent Eddie Trevino Jr. Now, the and first, I do want to congratulate the Southern Democratic Party of Cameron County. It was a very well organized event. From my understanding, they originally had it inside of Perry's Pizza, but due to the support of the community members that appeared in person, they had to take it outside. And one thing I would suggest, everything was good. The sound was okay considering it's live, because people don't understand that. People think, oh, well, just click on the camera and go. There's so many things and so many factors that you have to take into account, especially when you're going live. You have to think about the internet, whether you have a good signal, because live it is sometimes it's choppy. And hey, I got the best internet. I got a gig. Maybe I should upgrade to 2 gigs, and I still get that lag every now and then. But all I would suggest for the Democratic Party would be to maybe invest in a camera. I think it would be great. That's the only issue that I had with the forum. Again, it was very well attended. People were curious. People wanted to see these individuals side by side. Unfortunately, I was not able to be there due to prior commitments that we have. But nonetheless, it was good to hear how these candidates were asking the questions that that many within the community had been asking. The host for the forum was Rosales from KRGV. She did an amazing job, very well ran. I personally would have wanted to. It was a lot of back and forth. It was a lot of calling people out. And look, that's what we want. We want these candidates to talk about what the rumors are, what the constituents are thinking. Um, it was an event that you needed to be there. It was like a boxing match. Um, it was well attended by politicos, people running for office, people in the know, and people that were just genuinely curious about uh, what what these candidates were going to say. One thing that I do appreciate and love is the support. You could hear that the audience was engaged. They were there for their candidate. Whenever Steve spoke and threw jabs at Eddie, his people, yeah. Whenever Eddie, turned around and answered those critiques, whenever he spoke about his service and what he has done as a politician, his people would back him up and support. That was awesome. To me, that's like, I wish I would have been there because you want to feel that. For us nerds that cover this on a daily basis, that's like our Super Bowl. Well, elections are our Super Bowl, but this is the face off for the UFC essentially, where we're right about the time to go in the ring again. Early voting starts on May the 18th, next Monday, not this coming Monday, but next, with election day on Tuesday, the 26th. You have an opportunity to elect the next Democratic county judge. And the way it looks right now and the way the political landscape has been, um, whoever is selected in May, whoever wins the runoff, essentially will possibly be the next county judge. So very, very important. Not to discredit Mauro Garza and the Republican Party, but you know we've seen how the Democratic Party and this event proved that how the Democrats are energized, and that's the way it happens. Whenever a party loses the presidency, whenever there is loss of power, whenever they feel things, whenever there's a war going on, it has a ripple effect into local politics. And this event showed how energized the Democratic Party is, at least here locally, and I'm sure throughout the state and possibly as well throughout the country. The questions pretty much ranged in um, economic development. What are your thoughts on certain the environment? The environment was a big issue as well. That Steve Guerra had thrown out there that he is all about the environment. Another thing that caught my attention was taking credit. Uh, Steve Guerra made arguments that El Trevino would take credit for certain things. Um, El Trevino said that Steve Guerra took credit for whenever President Trump made the announcement that the port of Brownsville was going to have the first refinery in 50 years, which was a big announcement. Ed Trevino pretty much said, "Hey, Steve had no involvement in it. He was in the dark, as we all were. This was a big surprise to many." Um, it was interesting because these people were actually throwing jabs at each other, like they were skirting questions. One thing that Ed Trevino did constantly stress is, hey, we don't know what this individual does. He cannot tell us definitively what's his source of income. He lists his companies in his personal financial statement filed with the county, and two of those companies have been defunct. They've been forfeited. They cannot legally operate in the state of Texas. And the third one, the consultant marketing company, was created a month right before um, right before the primary, which was stressing me. This guy has so many questionable, you know, business dealings that we don't really know, where he gets his source of income. Um, Another argument that Ed Trevino made against Steve Guerra was the port, that the port generated $44 million, but was only spending 16 million. And what is happening with those 28, $30 million that is saved in the coffers? Are things being done that we do not know? That was very interesting that he stated, because again, we get taxed from the Port of Brownsville. How are you going to tax a community or continue to tax a community whenever the government entity is so strong? Now, I guess you could say, hey, well, with that's what we do with BISD, right? But the port generates money. Um, that was very interesting, and it kind of brings into what the platform that Luis Villarreal had, who recently won the place one, if I'm not mistaken, for the Brownsville Navigation District for the at the Port of Brownsville. That was his main is his platform. That if elected, if and when he's elected, that he is going to focus on reducing the tax uh, assessed to the community because it leads to question if the port is doing so well. Steve Guerra, during his campaign, he was saying that the port during his time, during his tenure at as a board member at the port, that they have generated billions of dollars. Well, all that's great that we're creating jobs and this, that, and that. But what about the community? The community still has a tax bill. Maybe we could eliminate that. That is something that Luis Villarreal campaigned on, and we're going to hold him to that. We hope that he implements ideas and stresses the need to maybe we need to get away from taxing the community. That would be great. I think everybody would welcome that. Um, Steve Guerra stated that the jail is overpopulated because Eddie Trevino recently signed an MOU with ICE to house those that the federal government arrested. He made arguments to that the jail is not up to standards. Eddie Trevino shot back and stated that, well, I don't know if you realize, but the one that was running the jail 2 years ago did not know what he was doing and essentially got us into this mess. In large part, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why our current sheriff, Manny Trevino, is having to deal with the things is because he's having to clean up the mess that came about from the tenure of Eric Garza as the county sheriff in 2020 to 2024. What we have seen has been the morale is low. Right now, there is this need for equipment, for vehicles. They've had issues with the jail, with staff, all that we cannot blame on the current administration. Essentially, the county judge does not manage the day-to-day operations of a jail, of a county-wide sheriff's department. At the end of the day, they're there to govern. And it's funny, and the reason why I say that is because Steve Guerra brought this issue up, and Eddie Trevino turned it around and stated, "Hey, well, the guy that endorsed you," and he pretty much stated that he called him like a moron, pretty much. He called like the idiot, not the idiot. It was more like I forgot what he said, the idiotic or something like that, como el menso que teníamos de aguacil, como que nomás no. Y ese chavo es el que te está patrocinando, te está, and Eric Garza is one of the only ones that have endorsed Steve Guerra. On Monday, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go more in depth into the idea of endorsements. Do endorsements really matter in campaigns? We'll tell you about who's endorsing who and why people aren't endorsing certain individuals. I think that's very important because Steve Guerra is wanting to throw dirt on Eddie Trevino that the jail is not up to standards. There's so much going on with the jail. But he doesn't tell the people that the reason why Cameron County and the sheriff's office is in a mess is because of Eric Garza, who is openly supporting Steve Guerra. There are many people that have stated that they believe wholeheartedly that there has been an agreement um, with Eric Garza and Steve Guerra. Because in a three-way race, we did not hear much of Eric Garza. Aside from what was posted in social media, he didn't appear to any of the forums that were set up prior to the primary. I possibly saw a few signs of Eric Garza throughout the county. It seemed as if he was just there, just smile and wave, pretty much type of deal, with the understanding that, Steve Guerra was hoping to get into a runoff. The interesting thing about the primary, ladies and gentlemen, is that it showed us a lot because Steve Guerra's argument was, oh, over 50% of the people, over 40 some percent of the people, whatever the number was, did not believe in the candidacy of Ed Trevino. But then again, Steve fails to state that he only got 30% of the vote. Eric Garza came in third by a couple I think the percentage was 30. Steve got 30, and Eric Garza got 26% of the vote. So Eric Garza, if he would have worked it, he possibly would have been in a runoff against Eddie Trevino. That's the crazy thing. So many people are alluding to the fact that hey, this was plan con maña from the beginning. This is the idea that the former sheriff, was just going to run in a three-way race to force a runoff, and it's kind of hard to argue against it because we didn't see much of Eric Garza. Um, what else? What else? The interesting thing that I found was again, you go to these events because you want to feel the air, you want to breathe, and have a sense of it's like for those individuals um, and I possibly shouldn't say this, but have got into fights. Like you feel that like that like that pump. Or when you work out, when you work out, you do your reps and then you put it on the bar and you're just flexing like, oh, that's a good pump. That's the way these debates are, at least for me. Both candidates are terrible. Hey, you know, it's interesting that you say that because people have said, you know, we're picking the lesser of two evils, so to speak. That's what people have told me. The interesting thing about this is that Eddie Trevino has always made himself available. There are things that he didn't answer, he didn't touch on in regards to the venue. Steve Guerra did mention, hey, the people multiple times rejected this idea of the venue. I didn't hear Eddie Trevino talk about that, but essentially, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because all three times, all three times that the venue came up, I voted against it. But now, but now that we because Brownsville is growing, um, I don't have to tell you, LNG, uh, SpaceX. Um there's so much going on in Brownsville, and what I like that Ed Trevino spoke about was he spoke about the future because that's the idea and goal of these elected officials. Because it's hard for us to, these people have to be visionaries. They have to think, um, how are we going to grow? Whenever you talk to a developer, somebody that builds, their idea isn't to stop building. No, they want to go, go, go. They want to stretch their range more. They want to provide economic development. That's the idea of every developer. Yeah, it's to make a profit, to make bucks, but you have to create that, and you have to make plans and take the steps necessary in order for you to grow. Whenever you are a county judge, whenever you are a mayor of, a, of an entity, and look, Brownsville is the biggest city in the valley, and Cameron County in the past 12 years, 10 years, has been going in a direction in which it needs. And that's very important. Who do you want, Steve or Eddie? Um, I cannot vote in that race. I voted a Republican. Only the Democrats are allowed to vote in the runoff primary election, which I'm going to encourage you. You have to go vote at the on May the 18th. May the 18th through that week. I think is the 22nd. Election day, Tuesday, May 26th. You have to go out and vote. Essentially, what boils down to me is Steve Guerra represents many question marks, and that leads me great concern because you hear things of what's happening at the Port of Brownsville. The Port of Brownsville is its own city. And while they say that we're doing great, that we're generating these jobs, that we're creating a better future, what they fail to tell you is that many people from Matamoros have taken control of the operations of logistics, have been put in important positions at the port that have benefited el compadrismo, that have benefited their associates. Now, this is an idea that los juniors de Matamoros se van a adueñar del condado de nuestra área. Como vemos, pues, ya está Pedrito Cárdenas en la ciudad. Tienen a De la Garza en el appraisal district. Steve Guerra estaba en el puerto, ahora quiere control del condado. These individuals, they want to control all dynamics of politics in our area. Two of them, Steve Guerra and Pedro Cárdenas, who is the current city commissioner for District 4, Uh, they have no source of income. They have no legit job that I'm aware of. And these people essentially want to run town. What have we seen from the port? Well, there is allegations of $500,000 being investigated by the three-letter agencies. Many people allude to the fact that the port has cleaned house. All the jobs, all the major jobs, come from Pemex, come from Matamoros, come from Monterrey, come from it's its own city. You don't hear nothing from it. And that's what's going to happen with Cameron County. If you are a county employee, you're probably not going to have a job. That's I'm just being honest with you. Why? Because these people will get their people in important positions, and goodbye. Everything that you've worked for those years, you're going to get replaced in some sort of way. If you don't believe me, look what's happening at the Port of Brownsville right now. Many people have stated that the Port of Brownsville, as of late, has been hot. That's one of the main reasons why Steve Guerra is jumping. Maybe, I don't know. I just think possibly he thinks that this is the best opportunity. One thing Steve Guerra also talked about was Tedasca, was SpaceX. How it was weird because Steve Guerra is saying about how Ed Trevino spoke on an NDA that they were informed of, and he ruined. I don't know, forgetting what he said. $40 million project, a $7 million project, and it is because of him that he's doing that. So again, this forum, this debate was awesome. It was everything that I expected, and I like it because it's like that back and forth. They were throwing at each other. The one thing that I did not hear from Steve Guerra is, he didn't answer to anything that Eddie Trevino questioned, because Eddie Trevino multiple times, and I'm gonna play the last 8 minutes. In a few minutes, I'm gonna play the last 8 minutes. They're closing arguments because it's awesome. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear from my elected officials. Organized crime, cut corner markets, get things done. I haven't seen that in the city. I haven't seen that at the port. I've seen all the opposite. I've seen where at the port they have pushed people out of key spots for their friends to come and get prime real estate at the port. That's what I've heard. Um, Essentially, what they do is they only benefit themselves. It's only them benefiting. And we got the government contracts. They both bad. Again, vote for whoever you think would take Cameron County to the next level. Again, I'm all about transparency. I'm all about, look. No, none of us are perfect. We all have issues. We all have something. We all have something that we're not perfect on. Something that Steve Guerra talked about was drainage. He said, "Oh, La Feria, Santa Rosa, Santa Maria, Northern Cameron County has been hit hard previously with rain." And we had Ed Trevino on the record going and saying, "Oh, do you want to bitch? Do you want to complain, or do you want to do nothing?" Ed Trevino said, "Hey, look, I made a mistake. I apologized the very next day. I reached out to those individuals and I said, look, you know, we were living under pressure times, and look, I made a mistake." That's what we want. We want our people to, hey man, we're human. Hey, la regué. I'm sorry. Maybe that wasn't my best choice of words. But then again, we have to recognize that those areas that are underwater, in large part, they're there because the developers have built in flood zones, from my understanding. So how can you, in good faith, say buy a house where you are known, you are made aware previously that that area is a flood zone, and then it trickles a little bit, and you say, "Oh my God, it's flooding! Why haven't you do nothing?" It's kind of like, whoa, 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 whoa. Again, in large part, yes, we need to do better as a county, but at the same time, that problem lies with the different cities, the different zoning and planning departments of those cities that allowed for these developers to build in areas that are flood zones. Again, it's simple, people. So I like that of Eddie Trevino. I said, "Hey, look, man, I made a mistake. You want to crucify me? Crucify me." What else? What else? What else? It was, to me, it was fascinating. I wish I would have been there again. I planned this this a while back, so unfortunately I wasn't able to be there. But again, technology, the power of technology, where we can be there. So again, I hope the Southern Democrats of Cameron County watch this video. My everything was great. You know, I like how they put mics on the candidates where we could hear. Because again, whenever you're outside, if it wasn't for these things, you know, this is a loud place. Invest in cameras. That's the only thing that you need. Maybe even an iPad. You know, something, because the phone is great. You know, I have some phones. I have several phones, but a camera. That's the only. And again, I'm going to show where they have several events coming up. I believe they have two more events. The Southern Democratic Party. They have this coming Wednesday, which we're going to promote, the Precinct 2 runoff forum with Joseph Lucio, I apologize, Joseph Lucio, who is in a runoff with incumbent Joey Lopez. That's going to be another great forum. Joey Lopez has recently been in the news for all of the wrong reasons. But at the same time, people have backed him up and say, hey, look, you know, he's going through something very traumatic. You wouldn't know. There's other people that say, hey, you know, don't be doing those things. You know, we understand you're going through something very personal, very dear, and maybe it's best for you not to be doing those things out in public. So again, the Southern Democratic Party have a great lineup coming up. But in closing, I want to play you the last 8 minutes of the closing arguments of each candidate, Steve Guerra and Eddie Treviño. I think you're going to appreciate it because I sure as heck did. And then we'll cover it shortly thereafter. Let me know if you can't hear.
Again, thank you for your time and for coming out, for listening.
Can you hear that? Let me know if you can't hear, guys. It's very interesting.
Listening to us, both Mr. Treviño and myself. And I humbly ask that you consider supporting me and voting for me for a positive change in this runoff. So if you look at these two campaigns, there's a stark difference. Mr. Treviño offers more of the same. I offer change. And, you know, I'm going to touch on the fact that we talk about, you'll see a sign, no dirty politics. And you know, that's a complete lie. I mean, you cannot believe that these things that are being said or these things that are these signs that pop up around town popped out of nowhere. Mr. Treviño's been behind it, and that's how it started. And I am going to make a commitment here tonight. I will not be participating in any dirty politics. I mean, imagine, I would have loved for my children to have been here tonight, but I didn't. Why? Because there was a heightened security alert. I'm a civil man. Mr. Treviño, you're a civil man. There's no need for this. We're all Democrats. We're all working for the same people. And one thing, another difference between me and him, and I hope he does it tonight, right now, is I've endorsed Gina Hinojosa for governor of the state of Texas. That's my question, sir. So please let us know. Again, I'll leave you with two questions. Has the county government met your expectations? And do you have someone that's accessible and approachable to you day in and day out, every day, not just during the last 4 months of an election? That's something for you to answer. Again, I'm asking you for an opportunity to work for you, to serve as your Cameron County judge, and I'll start day one. It's time to deliver this office back to the people. Thank you all very much. God bless.
I don't know if you saw, but there were signs all over the Cameron County with a rat with my face on it. Okay? That's not dirty politics. Okay, Steve. Fine. Number two, what do you do for a living? How do you make your living? Maybe you don't want to raise a county judge because you're making so much money doing whatever the heck it is that you're doing that you refuse to level with the people of Cameron County. He says he's an entrepreneur, but he doesn't tell us his businesses, and then he tells us the businesses, two of them are defunct, and one of them just opened. Come on, guys. This man is trying to pull the wool over each and every one of our heads. He talked right now about a heightened sense of security. What the heck are you talking about?
You're gonna
Did you have somebody come over here to try to threaten me?
No.
Is that what you're talking about?
It's on the internet.
Yeah. Oh, well, you gotta believe everything on the internet. You have to believe everything on the internet. Yeah, you have to believe everything on the internet, especially if it's on his website
Or
and his post. Well, you know what? I've tried. I have tried. And every criticism that I had with this man, I have stood behind it. Okay? But let's be honest. Cameron County is in a hell of a lot better position than it was 9.5 years ago. Jobs, economic development, better pay, lower unemployment, lower tax rate. The Port of Brownsville generated approximately $44 million in its budget last year, but yet spent only $16 million. What are they doing with all that extra money? I'm not gonna say you're pocketing it, but you're just saving it? What about returning that money in a lower tax rate or eliminating the tax rate at the port completely? Sir, with all due respect, you and I were friends before this. I don't think we're gonna be friends after this. But if you had stuck around at the Northern Cameron County Democratic event several weeks ago, I completely endorsed Gina Hinojosa at that event, but you weren't there. Ladies and gentlemen, Cameron County deserves better than what Mr. Guerra is offering. We really, really do. I humbly ask for your vote, for your support, for your prayers, because this, I'm not gonna lie to you, this election has been one of the most unpleasant experiences. I see my mom over there. I told her not to show up tonight because I was concerned. I wasn't concerned from a security standpoint, although maybe Mr. Guerra had let me know that there was a security issue I might have been. I was only concerned because none of our family members should have to deal with this stuff.
Agreed.
And, well,
then commit to not doing it.
Yeah.
Commit to not doing it.
I, sir, have done that.
Sir.
Telling the truth about an individual is very different than making baseless, defamatory personal attacks that have no business in our campaigns. We can disagree on policy, we can disagree on issues. I have no problems with that. But what you and your campaign have done, and they're here, I've been threatened, innuendos, but I'm not here to back off from him or from anybody else for the betterment of Cameron County.
Again, very interesting. Steve opens up his closing arguments with saying that, oh, this has been dirty politics. Steve was the one that started with the rat, and these posters were all over Cameron County. The issue that Steve fails to recognize is what is being brought up about Steve is nothing but facts. There are questions into illicit businesses, business transactions, business dealings with what you call the illicit fuel trade that Steve has failed to answer to. Everything that has been talked about, Steve, has been corroborated, and we ask you to continue to, ask these tough questions. We created this website where we want to know, why isn't Steve answering these questions? This website, www.votenotosteve.com, gives you, the voter, an opportunity to look at documents from the state of Texas, from Cameron County, to paint a picture of a candidate that there are question marks. What is the source of his income? He talks about him being an entrepreneur, but 2 of those businesses have been closed down. We have brought to light that Steve Guerra is tied with what you call. To many people, that might not be a big issue, but whenever you think about Uncle Sam, that's a big problem. That if the authorities weren't aware, I'm sure they're aware now. So this is only going to create problems for him moving forward. Again, the difference between Steve Guerra and Eddie Trevino is that everything that's being about Steve Guerra is factual. If you don't believe me, go to www.votenotosteve.com. We provide you with facts, with receipts, with documentation filed in Cameron County that Steve Guerra will be getting. It's not like that. Look, Sebastian, you may be new to the game, but if you've been following our program, if you've been following our page, we talk about politicians and we hold elected leaders and those in leadership positions accountable. Nobody's getting paid to talk about Steve's questionable dealings. Again, there's nothing personal. People think automatically, oh, he's getting paid, he's getting paid. It's not about that. So the people son convenencieros. Whenever you talk about corruption over here, over there, over here, over there, oh, you're great. But whenever you start talking about the candidates they prefer, oh, you're bot. Oh, you're no good. Again, if you're new here, Sebastian, welcome. You obviously haven't been familiar with what we've been doing for, several years now. Again, learn from someone that was passionate, someone that spoke out against corruption. That's what we do. So I understand he's your candidate, but to simply state, oh, Frankie, you cannot say these things about Steve Guerra because you're a bot. No, I'm a resident. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a voter. And if Steve Guerra is, avoiding those questions, it leads me to believe that, there's something there. So it's not like that. But again, everyone's entitled to their opinion. They think that I'm bot. They think that I'm on the take. They obviously aren't familiar with our trajectory and what we have been behind. We're against corruption. We don't want individuals that lie to us. We want people to do the right thing. No one's perfect. We understand. But if Steve Guerra would have presented a different approach from the beginning, he possibly wouldn't be behind 4,500 votes. And look, I don't favor one candidate over the other. Again, do I benefit? No. Is my life going to change if Eddie or Steve wins? No, I could care less of either candidate. It's my job to present information. Whether the people accept it or not, it's not my thing. People take things personal. To me, politics is business. To me, it's again, we believe that if all the information is out there, and look, it's like me. Whenever I run, they're going to post my mugshot. They're going to say that I'm the fucking worst individual ever. That's fair. It's politics. You have to convince people that even though you're not perfect, you are the best person for the job. Steve talks about transparency. Steve talks about accessibility. Have we seen that? He is only showing up. Why don't you? Again, I'm doing my part. Why don't somebody else does another part? Again, I do this as a hobby. People, again, you think I'm getting paid to do it? I do this for fun. Again, it's a preference thing. I'm not saying that if you vote for Steve, you're evil, you're the worst. No, but again, our job is to talk about. And again, look, people. Steve Guerra brought up SpaceX. Steve Guerra brought up the venue. Steve Guerra brought up LNG. Steve Guerra brought up. Eddie Trevino said, "Hey, look, LNG, SpaceX. I've never taken credit for it. Those are things that happened before my tenure." Because the simple thing is for people to say, "Oh, Eddie Trevino, he's the one that gave away our beaches." It doesn't work like that. But again, to the person that's not educated, they would see, Eddie Trevino gave away our beach. No, a county judge has no authority. The ones who are able to do that is the state of Texas, legislation, senators. There is this idea that Elon Musk, SpaceX, wanted to avoid going straight to the Cameron County Commissioner. And again, everyone says, Eddie. Eddie's only one vote. There's 4 votes that matter. 3 to pass, my understanding. Well, 5 votes that matter, but 3 is the controlling force. But Elon Musk and SpaceX wanted to avoid going to Cameron County because Cameron County had the authority to not agree with their shutdown. So what did they do? They went the other route and they went straight to legislation. They went straight to Austin and they said, hey, give us this control. And they did. So if anybody who is an avid environmentalist, who is an avid beachgoer, and you want to say, why is Cameron County doing this to me? Focus your energy on our local representatives, our legislators, our senators. Those are the ones we need to address these questions about, oh, you sold this out to SpaceX. Again, Eddie Trevino had nothing to do with SpaceX. That was before his tenure. And again, they sideswiped the city commission, county commission. I apologize, and they went straight to Austin. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you have a very important role. I have my part. You have yours. I can't cover everything, ladies and gentlemen. People say, "Oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" We cover things because everybody's talking about Ed Trevino. Everybody's talking about the arena. Everybody's talking about. He's answered them. You see, what we do is we focus on the issues that nobody's talking about, because why do we want to talk about what everybody's talking about? To me, it's boring. I don't want, I want to be a trendsetter. I want to create content where you come to learn, to discuss, because nobody else is talking about it. If you go through all these different pages that have been popping up, it's all a little bit of the same. I don't want to be the same. I want to transition in from fitting in to standing out. I want to be unique. Why am I only focusing on Steve? Steve has a lot of question marks. Things. Look, have you ever heard these things about Steve Guerra? Have you ever heard about the Huachicol? Have you ever heard about his connection to organized crime? Have you ever heard about other things that we've been covering? That is, his businesses aren't. He's not able to operate two of his businesses that he has claimed to be the source of his income. You didn't know that. I was talking with somebody and they said, Frankie, I don't know if you are brave enough or you're just stupid enough to talk about Steve Guerra in the way you have, because nobody's ever done that. But again, we want to be the platform for your source of information. If we wouldn't have brought this out to light, we feel as if you, the voter, wouldn't have known. Maybe the tipping scale would have been the other way. Maybe Steve Guerra would have been ahead 4,500 votes compared to his current predicament that he's in right now. Steve Guerra wants to now commit to avoid politics when he says that everything that's being said against them is a lie. We provide information that is factual, that we're able to provide you with proof. That to me is not dirty politics. To me, that is informing the community. Now, at the 11th hour, Steve wants to commit to avoiding dirty politics. He even threw out that, there's tension. It was a heightened security warning, and this and this, that, and that. And the interviewer was like, damn, well, you should have told me. Are you threatening me? Should I fear for my life? Should I fear for my security? My mom's here. Steve said, oh, my children are here. It's but I thought that was hilarious how Steve now wants to avoid dirty politics. Again, the page that he's using or has been using, Brownsville Valley News, they are extorting city of Brownsville, Cameron County residents. They're extorting. I provided proof. I went live. I showed you how the Brownsville Valley News asked someone, will take down your picture if you pay us. We need to charge you. To me, as a layperson, that extortion. Steve Guerra was using that page to promote himself. He knew what they were doing, but that's business as usual for people such as Steve and his group. Why? Because they want to win it no matter what it takes. I hate to bring this up, and I probably shouldn't, but that same page was talking about his aunt, his family, in a very negative light. Whether that's true or not, that's not the issue. And Steve still decided to use this platform that attacked his own blood, his own family, to promote him. Again, I'm not the clean of sin. I do like to win, but if somebody came to me to work together and they talked about my uncle, why do you think I would not entertain any sort of promotion, any marketing from that platform? And Steve Guerra doesn't care. Why? Because he wants to win at all costs. And to me, I want somebody with a backbone. I don't want a slime ball. This individual got in cahoots with Brownsville and Valley News, who talked about his own aunt. He's using them to promote his platform. Really? Jeez, that just says everything about him. Again, he's not about family. He's all about himself. Whatever it takes to get me ahead. Maybe that's the reason why, Steve, you're down 45,000 votes, 4,500 votes. But again, who am I to say no? Thank you so much for your time and your attention. I hope this program provides you with information that is worthy, because again, we're different from the other platforms. We talk about things that aren't discussed. Why? Because we want to keep it fresh. We want to keep it new. I don't want to bore you. Best believe whenever you tune in to Good Morning Brownsville, we have something different, unique to talk about. That is the beauty of our program. Thank you so much for joining me along this ride. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Franco Legal TV. Best believe we'll come on Monday to Friday religiously. You want us to continue to provide you with the latest information that is going on within our area? We'll gladly do so. We don't ask much in return. All we ask for is something very simple, something that won't cost you a dime. Make sure that you're actively following and are subscribing to all of our social media content platforms. But more importantly, make sure you subscribe to Franco Legal TV on YouTube. It's free. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and attention. Hope to see you here on Monday. Well, Tuesday. Hope to see you here on Tuesday. My name is Frank Lee, and this is Good Morning Brownsville. Peace. Are you waiting?